Hi everyone, so I hope you're keeping well and safe during the lockdown. Of course, it's been extended for another 3 weeks, which is kind of frustrating, but at the same time, I'm glad that it's happened because obviously there's a lot of vulnerable people out there and we need to keep positive, keep going, and we're going to fight the disease and beat it. But that's not the point of this video. I just wanted to make sure everyone's all right. Sun's shining right now, it's great weather, and the birds chirping. It's really lovely out here. So I figured I'd actually make a video about my top 10 favorite films that I've watched. I can imagine that a lot of you are stuck at home, and when the evening comes, you just want to chill out and watch a film. And I feel like you get in a situation where you're sitting there, you're scrolling through Netflix, Amazon Prime or anything. It feels like hours and hours of trying to find something, and you just don't end up finding anything. This is why I've put together a list of the top 10 films of my personal choice that I've recently watched. The good thing about this is they're all on Netflix, so if you haven't got a Netflix subscription, go and get one right now. I've chosen a range of genres here so that you can choose what mood you're in and then decide the film that way. Now, you might not be up for a super hard watch, you might be looking for something fun and relaxing to watch, so that's why I've chosen a range of things, from comedy to drama to thrillers. I haven't actually chosen any horrors, surprisingly. I do love horror films, but you know, the whole COVID-19 is kind of horror in itself. Number 10 is the 2011 thriller film Contagion, directed by Soderbergh. The plot follows an epidemic of a lethal airborne virus the medical team can't really handle with it all. The actual panic from the public is worse than the actual virus itself. Now, I've got to say that this film was very enjoyable, but the narrative did let me down quite a lot. I kind of guessed everything that was going to happen in the film, which I should be surprised, but I just didn't get that out of this film. However, this film is literally the definition of COVID-19. It's showing the experience portrayed in the worst way it could possibly be. Everyone should definitely watch this film since it's incredibly relevant to our situation and it makes you really think about our effects of going outside. Number 9 is the 1994 comedy Dumb and Dumber, directed by Peter Farrelley and starring Jim Carrey as Lloyd and Jeff Daniels as Harry. The story follows Mary leaving her suitcase at the airport, and Lloyd, as a taxi driver, decides to grab this, and the two friends travel thousands of miles all the way across the country just to return it to her, and Lloyd is fighting to basically fall in love with her. I actually watched this last night on Netflix, and I gotta say, I was not disappointed one bit at all. Jim Carrey and Jeff Daniels are fantastic actors. I even felt that this film wouldn't have worked without them in it. Their performances were absolutely fantastic. The whole film just made me laugh so much. The way it was constructed was just so effortless in the way that it flowed from scene to scene. There was just enough in there, just enough substance in the amount of comedy. Overall, it was just a brilliant watch, a fantastic classic comedy film. Number 8 is the 1988 fantasy comedy classic Beetlejuice, which is directed by Tim Burton. I've only seen Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, the remake by him. When a couple end up drowning, they end up as poltergeists in their farmhouse. When a new family moves in, they try to scare them away. I don't know if it's just me, I prefer watching older films. I love the way they look. 35mm film is just so authentic and it really feels like I'm watching a proper movie. I was very surprised by this film and didn't really expect what I saw, but I was not disappointed at all. The cast was absolutely fantastic. The visual effects weren't so good, but for the time it was made, I do give it credit. The narrative's more important for me. I also loved that they built a miniature set of the whole town, and this also came alive, which was very inspiring and creative from Tim Burton. So if you're looking for a film that you just want to chill out to and have a laugh, then this one's for you. Number 7 is the 2018 comedy drama Mid-90s. Directed by Jonah Hill, this follows the story of 13-year-old Stevie, who doesn't really fit in with his family. His older brother bullies him, and with his mother, he just doesn't really get along with her. He tries to fit in with the local skate crew, which he does, but this leads to bad consequences. I always love watching dramas because for me, it's the most real type of film you can watch, and as an audience member, you relate to it a lot more. I think that Sonny Soljic is a fantastic actor. He's really incredible for his age, especially. Really got into his head. I really felt how he was feeling as a kid. I can imagine that the director, when he went around the casting process for this film, he probably went around the city and scouted skaters, because a lot of these were like professional skaters. Really like that. It's very authentic in that way. I almost felt that this was kind of like a documentary in a fiction film, if that makes sense. So real to life and you feel like you could be there. Only an hour and a half, so it's not a long film. If you're looking for a shorter film to watch or just a generally fantastic film, go and watch Mid-90s. Number 6 is the comedy drama adventure film Captain Fantastic, which was written and directed by Matt Ross. A father living in the wilderness with his 6 kids, and he's trying to assimilate back into real society. Now honestly, from looking at the poster of this film and the general description on Netflix, I did not expect this one bit. Like honestly, this film was absolutely mental. There was just so much in this film which I just did not expect happening, and the overall story as well, I thought it would have turned out differently. I loved Viggo Mortensen's performance, and also especially George Mackay. He was really, really good in this film. His performance, he adapted very well for a new role. Of course, he was in 1917, the war film, came from a soldier to, you know, a kid in a tribe, basically. It felt like that to me. I loved how close all the kids were in this film, and the fact that the father was a role model for all of them, but also the fact when he tried to go back into real society, he was very inappropriate. Like, if a father did that in a modern day, you know, that wouldn't be acceptable. It's also comedy. He does these messed up things which are not meant to be funny, but the director directing this in such a way that it's funny to me, and I laughed at the dark things in it. He treated the kids like a tribe, so when they went into the real world, so went to the shops, they were dressed up in such weird fashions. This was just, it was really comedic, and I loved that aspect of it. However, there's a lot of touching moments in this film, and it was actually quite an emotional experience. If you're looking for a film which is very dark, also got comedy in it, and quite an emotional ride, then this film's for you. Number 5 is the 2006 comedy drama Stranger Than Fiction, which is directed by Marc Forster. It follows the story of Harold Crick, a lonely office worker whose mundane life is transformed when he hears a mysterious voice narrating his life. I absolutely loved Will Ferrell's performance in this film. The way that he pulled off this comedy was not going to work without him. Honestly, I'd say that it won't work without him, because Will Ferrell was an incredible actor in this film. He did some great performances, and also the way that he takes minimal actions, so for example playing a guitar, he just acted out in such a great way, a really funny way. The way that he reacted to the narration, he got really frustrated, and it made me laugh a lot. The narration actually worked really well. A lot of times with narration of films, I don't really think it works, but in this case, because it was kind of like when he did action, the narrator came in and told what he just did. It was really, really great, and it was really funny actually. The film also critiques its actual narrative, which is very unusual and bizarre in a film, but it was absolutely brilliant, and it really worked. I had a really fun time watching this film, and it was really enjoyable. Number 4 is the 2019 drama Marriage Story, directed by Noah Baumbach, I think that's how you pronounce his name, I'm not sure. And it stars Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson. It follows the story of a stage director and an actress who are struggling to go through a divorce and take it to the extremes. The film is definitely not an easy watch, in the fact that the arguments between Adam and Scarlett get very dark and very, very tense. That's what I love about it as well. If you've gone through anything like heartbreak, losing a friend, someone in your family hurt you, and that kind of thing, you might get something out of this film. I loved Adam and Scarlett's performance in this film. They acted very believable together, and the way that they argued, there's one scene in that film which is just so tense, where they just go for it, they break down and just, you know, shout at each other. It's incredible. You need to watch this film, because some of them scenes, just the way that they argue is just so fascinating, and it just proves that they're incredible actors. If you're in the mood for a very tense and emotional film, then this one's for you. Moving on to number 3 is the 2000 thriller American Psycho, directed by Mary Harron and starring Christian Bale as the protagonist. It follows a wealthy New York banking executive who hides his psychopathic ego from his co-workers and friends and escalates into his deeper fantasies. Christian Bale's performance is absolutely exceptional. He's very natural in the film, and the way that he draws people into his home is very manipulative. This is such an iconic film because you remember so much from it. It's super twisted, yet so funny and so quotable. But don't watch this film when you're feeling for a nice, relaxing experience, because it's the total opposite of that. Number 2 is the 1999 drama American Beauty, directed by Sam Mendes. It tells the story of Lester, a depressed suburban father who's going through a midlife crisis, and he decides to go through major changes after getting an infatuation for his daughter's attractive friend. Everything about this film was exceptional. The cinematography, the soundtrack, I mean, everything was great about this film. The main thing that got me was the ending. It really hit me. Like, I was not expecting it at all. I also love the way that they portray Lester's fantasy with the daughter's attractive friend, the way that the music changes and everything in that moment really changes, and you know that you're in his head in this situation. It's really clear the difference between that and then when he's in his normal state. Overall, great watch. Really recommend this film. I got so much out of this film, and I really enjoyed it. This is definitely the best film I've watched recently. It could be even the best film I've watched this year, I reckon. It's the 1986 thriller crime Blue Velvet, directed by David Lynch. Now, I haven't watched many Lynch films, but I definitely want to get into Lynch films more, because he really did not let me down. I was very surprised by this film, and I got a lot out of it. The story is based on the discovery of a severed human ear found in a field. Now you might be looking at me like, what the hell, why would I want to watch this? But bear with. This leads to an investigation of a mysterious nightclub singer and a group of criminals who have kidnapped her son. The way that the investigation unfolds was very captivating. The cinematography was on point, the soundtrack was on point, everything about this film was on point basically. And what I'm trying to say is, this film was perfect, but obviously nothing's perfect. So it was perfect, but not perfect, if you know what I mean. I just absolutely loved this film. It was really great. 5 out of 5. So there we have it. That's a list of my top 10 favourite films that I've recently watched in this lockdown. Keep watching films. Let me know in the comments what you thought of these films if you watched them. If you got any other films which you recommend me to watch, or fellow viewers to watch, then let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.